Hey guys, thanks for tuning in and chomping at the bit. Now, hopefully you have a great day. Let's start with that. But want to take this opportunity to talk about the college football playoff. And as you see from the title, are we heading towards chaos with the college football playoff? Spoiler alert, I hope we are, because I'm a full-fledged member of we need the expanded playoff. I still don't understand why the committee hasn't announced it yet for next season because we need it as soon as possible. If it was up to me, it'd be implemented this year, but I get it. Scheduling everything doesn't make sense. Not feasible at this point. But for next season, it's got to be done. I think I've done a few episodes on here to outlining why. I'm a fan of the expansion of the college football playoff. Just to give you the quick notes. One, new matchups in the playoff. I want to see it. Two, give them the opportunity to smaller schools because one spot in the playoff will be guaranteed to a group of five champion. That's the highest ranked. Love that. Three, more incentive for players to actually play later in the season. As we're seeing with bowl games, a lot of the top prospects aren't wasting their time going to a bowl game that doesn't mean anything when all they could really do is just hurt their draft stock. So a lot of them are pulling out. Expanded playoff, you're not going to get that. And four, it adds more meaningful games to the college football regular season. I'm a big fan of that as well because most weeks you look at the college football schedule, it's like two or three games that you really care about in terms of the grand scheme of the end game of a national title. Expanded playoff, you'll get multiple games each week with teams in like the top 15 that you're really paying attention to because maybe even top 20, I don't know. But because you're going to be looking at the top 12, teams just outside the top 12 and all that. And also, group of five team that's kind of working their way up the rankings, you'll be paying attention to their games a lot more. So, those are the quick reasons why I'm all for the college football playoff. And in order to get there for next year, I think we need chaos this season for the playoff. So, that's why I'm rooting for it. But as we go through this episode, I'll probably give you some scenarios where we could get legitimate chaos in terms of the football playoff. So if you didn't see it, the rankings come out every Tuesday. Yes. So this past Tuesday, this is what we got. Number one, UGA, no questions there. Number two, Ohio State. Number three, Michigan. Number four, TCU. That might have been the first eyebrow raiser because some people were thinking that Tennessee might be number four. Some thought TCU, some thought maybe even Oregon could be number four. So we got TCU, we got Tennessee, number five, um, Oregon, number six. You know, outside of the top six, is usually that's where they kind of go with in terms of their playoff ranking. But LSU, seven, moving up after that big win over Alabama. USC, eight, the aforementioned Alabama is now number nine, and then round up the top 10, Clemson at number 10. So, all in all, I think the committee got it right. I thought going into this week that I was one of those who thought Tennessee was going to be number four with TCU five, Oregon six. So, however, four, five, and six went, I wouldn't have been mad either way. So, about these rankings, UGA at number one, no brainer. They'll probably be there because they don't really have a tough game left on their schedule until they get to the SEC title game. We'll have to see who that's going to be against. Talk about that in a little bit here. So they're probably locked in. Ohio State and Michigan at two and three. Each one of them, well, for each of them, their toughest game is going to be the final game of the regular season when they play each other. So I guess that's going to be a type of elimination game of sorts. Whether or not that's going to be fair or not, we'll have to see how the season plays out because both teams will be going into that matchup undefeated, most likely. They should be. So one of those teams will get their one and only loss possibly that day. Uh, TCU at number four. Interesting because they have Texas this weekend. I think a lot of people are putting TCU on upset alert because we've seen with Texas that when they're healthy, especially at quarterback, they're a much different team than what they've been all season. So if Texas were to pull that upset, then TCU would most likely be eliminated from football consideration. But if TCU runs the table, you got to figure that they're going to get in. Tennessee sitting at 5. Tennessee is a uh, interesting team because if you look at their resume, it looks like a playoff team because they've beaten Alabama, they beat LSU, and the reason why they're sitting outside the top four is because they lost to Georgia, but the manner that they lost, it looked like they don't belong in the same field as Georgia. So it's going to be tough to tell a team in Tennessee that's had a really good season. Now, this is all banking on them finishing it out with that Georgia loss being their only loss. But you're gonna, but it's possible you could tell a team that, like I said, beat Alabama, beat LSU, and then lost to Georgia, and that's their only loss, and only because now they can't get to the SEC title game because Georgia's in their way. They could be sitting home from the playoff. That's tough, but that's the way it works when you have four teams. Oregon. A lot of people wrote off Oregon when they got annihilated week 0, whatever they call it, the first game of the season against Georgia, when Georgia made Oregon look like a FBS team, um, or FCS. I can't remember. No, FBS is the second division, whatever. But made them look like they were headed for a rough season. All they've done since then is win out. So Oregon's toughest game will be, I believe it's not this weekend, but next weekend they play Utah. I think they play Washington this weekend, who's number 25. So next couple of weeks, if Oregon can win those two games, that's going to be two ranked wins. The Utah one would be great for their resume. And if that's the case, Oregon probably has the best path to get into the top four of the teams that are outside right now. Um, LSU, I mean, LSU has two losses. They obviously can't lose a third game because if they do that, there's no shot of them making the top four. But if LSU wins out, maybe they get in. You know, they have um, actually what's LSU's resume looking like? I'll pull that up real quick. But you know, LSU has the win over Alabama. I believe they beat Mississippi back to back weeks. So they beat Mississippi when they were number 7, Alabama when they were number 6, beat both those teams back to back. That looks really good for them. They do have the loss to Tennessee, but like I said, Tennessee's had a really good year, so that's probably helping LSU at this point. So Tennessee running the table makes LSU look well, running the table for the rest of the season makes LSU look a little better. I think the two losses might keep them out, but you know, they're a team I could see getting up to maybe as high as 5, or unless there's complete chaos at the top. LSU could legitimately be a playoff team. Their toughest game would probably be the end of the season when they play Texas A&M. Yes, Texas A&M has not had a great season, but it's Texas A&M. They are very much capable of, on that given day, beating this LSU squad. Um, USC sitting there at 8. USC is interesting because what people will be looking at for USC and Oregon, whoever can win the Pac 12 will get the leg up, of course, and maybe getting into the top 4. Um, USC, their one loss was to Utah, who was, I think, ranked pretty high at the time. So they at least ranked in the top 20 or something like that. So that's, it's not the worst loss to have, but USC, see, they have Colorado this week, and then the 2 next weeks, last 2 weeks of the season, they get number 12 UCLA, number 20 Notre Dame. So especially for that last game against Notre Dame, they would love to have probably Notre Dame ranked around 15 or so to make that look like an even better game for them, and if they were to win that one, that could propel USC into the playoff. And like I said, they're going to have to win the Pac 12, of course, to really get a shot at it. But I think the biggest question is Alabama sitting there at number 9. Is there a path for Alabama to make the playoff? Because since we've had this football playoff, I believe Alabama's made the playoff every season. And with them sitting at 9, only 3 games left to play, we might see the first season of Alabama not making the playoff, which I'm kind of rooting for because I think if Alabama misses the playoff and they're like 10-2, with their 2 losses to top 10 LSU and a top 10 Tennessee, I think there's going to be an uproar to get the playoff going next season. Because all things considered, you would pick Alabama as a team to at least be able to play for a title, even with 2 losses, because the talent on the squad is there. But with this being top 4, I got to tell you, Alabama fans, if you're listening or if you're watching this, Alabama's shots at the playoff are pretty much paper thin because there's a few things working against them that I don't know if they can overcome that in just 3 weeks. One, they no longer control their own destiny to make the SEC title game. That belongs to LSU. Now, coming into this video, I was actually thinking they just needed LSU to lose 1 game in the SEC to get Alabama back on track to make the SEC title game. Turns out they would need LSU, I believe, to lose their last 2 SEC games because LSU only has 1 loss in the SEC, whereas Alabama has 2, like I said, Tennessee, LSU. And with LSU owning the tiebreaker over Alabama, they can't tie conference record-wise because LSU moves on. So LSU is going to have to lose this weekend when they play Mississippi. They have to lose the last week of the season against Auburn in order to get Alabama in there. To be honest with you, I don't see that happening. So I think right there off the bat, Alabama's not going to make the SEC title game. So I don't see how Alabama could get into the playoff. If there was a path for them to get there without making the SEC title game, you're going to need like complete collapses at the top in terms of they're probably going to need Ohio State, Michigan, one of those teams to lose before that game. That way there's no guarantee that both of them can make the playoff. So that opens up 1 spot. They would need TCU to lose probably big to Texas to knock them out. They'd need Oregon to lose the second game. They would need USC to lose. They would just need too much right now that I don't see them making it. Now, talk to me in a couple weeks. If Alabama's sitting at like number 6 or number 7, maybe I could find a path. But the way it's sitting right, the way it looks right now, Alabama's not making the playoff. They probably shouldn't because of 1 to 2 losses. They legitimately could have had a 3rd loss in that game early in the season against Texas when they played undisciplined football and Texas was down to like their 3rd string quarterback, which helped Alabama in that one. But yeah, I think Alabama's going to be sitting home watching the football playoff, which we all know Nick Saban's not going to be happy about. SEC fans aren't going to be happy about. And like I said, if that's what it takes to get the football playoff, ratified, voted on, whatever, and implemented for next season, I'm all for it. So that's kind of where we stand right now. With each ranking, each Tuesday here on out, I'll definitely be giving you an episode with my updated thoughts on where the teams stand at that point. But if I was to make a guess on what the final 4 will look like, I would say Georgia's pretty much a lock at this point. Um, I honestly think Ohio State and Michigan both get in because I think worst, like I said, the worst case is one of those teams will just be a one-loss team at the end of the season. It's going to be tough to get both of them in, but I think ultimately both of them do get in at the end. And then I think Oregon will be your fourth team in. So I'm looking at Georgia. It'd probably be like Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, or something like that. Maybe. I don't know. A lot can go on in the final 3 weeks. Like the more I talk about it, I could definitely see a USC being there, which I don't know if people want that. I mean, I can't say that people don't want that, but um, that might be the most unexpected. We'll say. All the way people talking about TCU, they might be the most unexpected team to stay within the top four. Um, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. The something tells me the committee may not want Ohio State and Michigan both to be in, especially with them being 2 and 3 right now. If Ohio State were one with Michigan sitting at three, then I think there's a way where Michigan wins that game in the end of the season and Ohio State still stays in the top four. That would have been the best way to get both of them in. But with them both sitting at 2 and 3, the loser of that one probably falls just out of the top four. So maybe it's going to be Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon. Maybe Tennessee finds their way as the number 4 team. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be mad at that. Now, that's going to be predicated on this past loss to Georgia doesn't completely derail their season and they lose again. If that happens, then Tennessee's definitely going to be done. But like I said, we'll have to see what happens. Um, I'm intrigued. I think this might be one of the more suspenseful end of the seasons that college football has had in recent history, with the amount of teams that possibly could get in the top four. So I think it's something that college football definitely needs, and I think it would be a great segue into an expanded playoff next season. I'm gonna keep saying that it better happen next season. If they make us wait till 2024, I think college football will drop the ball, and yeah, that's my stance. So you can let me know whether or not you agree with that. Do you think the 14 playoff is where they should stay? I mean, we're going to get the extended playoff at some point. So I guess the real question should be: would you want to see it next season like me, or do you think they should wait, maybe iron everything out? Which I don't think there should be a lot to iron out, but wait till 2024 to implement it. Let me know down in the comment section. And also, Alabama fans, let me know what your scenario is to get your squad into the top four. Like I said, I don't think there's a way. It's basic, like I said, paper thin. Sitting in a dark room, there's that one little crack of light coming in through the door. That's their chance. That's it. So, yeah, we'll see. A lot of great games left that will decide a lot. And like I said, I will be here each week to talk about the new rankings and what I think. So, before I get out of here, just to remind you guys, Tuesday, Thursday nights, both nights, 7 o'clock. Catch me on Sports Empire Network. Big Three Podcast Tuesdays, Pregame Pigskin Thursdays. Both of them are live, Facebook and YouTube. And now also on Tiki Live, where you can watch it on your TV. I believe it's available on Roku TV, Apple TV. Yeah, I think Samsung TV. But now you can watch me those 2 nights on there. Friday nights, JJL Sports Talk Show, where I do show on Facebook and YouTube Live. And then within like an hour or so after, available for you to listen to, do that show with Jordan, who's the JJL part. Um, yeah. So like I said, if you don't see episodes from me on here, Those are two places that you can catch me out at. But hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If you did, you know what to do. Hit the like button, subscribe. If you subscribe on YouTube, make sure you hit the notification bell as well. That way, when I do drop a new episode, you will be notified. If you are over on Facebook, make sure you follow Chomping at the Bit on Facebook. I drop the episodes there as well, so you can catch those there. If you're on Twitter, follow me at Chomping Podcast. I'm starting to get into TikTok. I mean, when I become more active in that, I'll probably start promoting the TikTok side of this as well. But thanks again for tuning in. Be safe out there. Have a great day. God bless, and I'll catch you in the next episode. All right? I'll see you.